The other thing that you asked was defunding. I'm not sure that I understand that concept of defunding the police. I do think that there's an opportunity if people would take the time to have conversations about what people are really asking for. Are they asking for additional money to fund social services and education? Because policing is a part of a larger system of government, and you just can't work on one without working on the others. So if you're talking about trying to find additional money for those other systems, then I think we need to look at asking the state of Texas perhaps to fund more, provide more funding for people who have been formerly incarcerated, who leave the prison system and come into our community. Also, people with the Department of Mental Health, Mental Retardation to provide additional funds. We need to find the source of some of the problems that we're having. There is, of course, no doubt that policing needs to be reformed in some manner. We need to look at the policies and the practices and the patterns of policing, especially as it relates to encounters, deadly encounters with minority communities. And so I think that we've somehow gotten off of those issues, because we do need to look at that. My first year on the city council, I spent 14 weeks every Tuesday in the Citizens Police Academy, because I needed to know from a personal point of view what their training is and what that looks like, and is there bias, do they talk about that? I would say that we probably have one of the best trained police forces in the country. I don't know all of them, but I've seen the training and the manuals that they've gone through. I've experienced that training. But maybe it's retraining. Maybe we need to do some retraining about the history of systemic racism in this country and what policing looked like and feels like to those of us who have had that long history and trauma of vigilante justice. And now we've got stand your ground justice and the Castle Doctrine justice. And so we need, as a community, a minority community, police officers to be available. And as Austin continues to grow, and that seems to be the trajectory we're on, is continued growth, we can't do with less officers. We have to do with more officers and perhaps differently trained officers so that they can respond to some of the serious issues. I was the victim of domestic violence. Physical, emotional, sexual violence. And I had to call Austin PD several times in my relationship before they gave me enough resources to say, these are some steps that you can take to get out of this situation. So I see a value in policing. My son is in law enforcement, but I also know that there's some things that must be changed, but I don't know that we're focusing on that when we just say, let's defund the police department and send $100 million over here and $100 million over there. There's got to be some accountability measures. You've got to understand what the issues are, who's going to do these things. I would not send a professional person to a domestic abuse call. You never can tell when those calls are going to go wrong. Many officers have gotten killed just responding to domestic abuse. So there's so many nuances that we're not talking about. We're just reacting to Mr. Floyd's unfortunate death.